Because the list has been published for you, and this is one of the functions of the internet.
And the list was published in Denmark. The Danish list was published, and it doesn't mean that you're going to stop the operation. I mean, if as you want to take the Louise position, which there should be no list. Okay, there should be no list. We're not going to agree.
But you want to protect... Let's go back to the centre.
Every hard-working public servant's going to check this list.
Well, the censorship, sorry, the classifications board, actually, that's its job. That's what it does. And I would agree if people said that they should have the sole responsibility, and that's something I'm happy to work through with ACMA, because ACMA have admitted now that there's at least one mistake that they made on the list, at least one out of the 1,300 names, and I think
so there's a dentist, there's a tour operator.
Let's be clear. Firstly, you're misquoting.
Anti-abortion side.
You are misquoting.
Highly political.
No, I'm happy to come to the anti-abortion side because people should understand what happened with the anti-abortion side. But again, you're quoting the dentist. I explained very clearly what happened. The Russian mob attached McSeary.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I want to hear from this side of the... I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I do want to hear from this side of the table. First of all, Greg Hunter, who hasn't had a chance to get in on this conversation.
All right.
But you're listening to what's being said here. I mean, how much of it do you disagree with?
Let me deal firstly with something Louise said. I don't think there is an absolute right to publish things which deal with violent crime against vulnerable people. Call me conservative. But it's a deeply important point that you have real crimes which are carried out, and we don't want to encourage that, to promote it, to glorify it. I'm happy to live by that. So to a certain extent, there's an agreement with Stephen. But what you also hear is that you get the feeling it may not be being handled perfectly at the moment. There are too many examples that what's being proposed and what is occurring at the same time, there are two different elements. I've patiently listened to all that you've said.
It's your list.
The really important point here is that we are now about to move from trying to deal with the worst of the worst to a very significant encroachment beyond that. And the method is not just about the blacklist, but the use of ISPs. The fact that Australia's three biggest ISPs have said to the Minister, sorry, go away, not interested,
that's not correct.
Is pretty significant.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt both of you there for a moment.
They would participate.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt both of you there for a moment because we have another video question. At least one commentator has called this the greatest assault on free speech in an open society in our country's history, and predicted it will unite left and right. That would be the libertarian right against the government. So let's take a look now at a video comment that's been submitted by a young high school student with, I must admit, a flair for theatrics.
I left my homeland, the People's Republic, to live in this country of freedom and democracy. Why then, Senator Conroy, has this land of liberty become so similar to the People's Republic of China? You and your people are destroying the internet, our freedoms and our rights. We will fight for this. We will fight this. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
Okay, by the way, that little emblem he was wearing on his jacket was Guy Fawkes, which he describes as a symbol of freedom, liberation, and rightful rebellion. Okay, you can see what's happening here, though, and by the sort of general kind of tenor of what you're hearing in the audience. Are you worried that this is going to lead down the path that you aren't really prepared for? That the Labor government gets accused of basically reining in basic freedoms.
But that is not what is being proposed. I mean, we believe that there is a compelling argument to block refused classification. We've not suggested, and I repeat, it would go against the fundamental tenet of the Labor Party to suggest you would block political content, which is the China line and the Saudi Arabia line. I couldn't be more clear or simple or straightforward on that. So no one is suggesting, no one, that we would go down that path. We're looking at technology to see if technology can help replicate what happens in the real world. As I said, I believe in the civil society. It is possible to support a blacklist and support free speech, just as it is possible to argue against a blacklist and not be a child pedophile. So we are not for a moment suggesting that we are going down the path that people just keep claiming. It's actually not what is being proposed. And Greg suggested that, no, I just need to respond quickly to Greg. Optus, the second largest ISP in the country, has said it will participate. The fourth largest is participating, and a number of others will be participating. And again, Greg tried to just slide in, oh, look, it's going to be a much broader list. Refused classification. Material that you can't view and distribute today is what I am talking about. And parents be given an option that they can then choose what level of controls they want. To give you an example, there's an ISP called WebShield at the moment to provide parents with a menu of items that they think their children should not see. And I don't think there's anything wrong with giving parents that choice. And I don't think there's anything intrinsically anti-free speech in saying refused classification material shouldn't be available.
OK, let's hear from one more person in the audience. We're going to have to move on to other subjects.
Senator Conroy, don't you realise that 1984 was supposed to be a warning, not an instruction manual?
Well, as I said, we're not considering, suggesting or implying or imputing that we will be blocking political speech. We're talking about material that is currently blocked. We're talking about material that the Classification Board currently make judgments on. That is what is the current act. And you may have only just discovered the blacklist existed in the last few weeks or the last few months. It's been there for 9 years.
I know that.
It was introduced by Greg and his party. He actually probably has forgotten, but he voted for it.
Steve,
Yes, go on.
Yeah, I'm shocked by the lack of moral seriousness here, even by people that are claiming to speak for the most fundamental principles of free speech. And the lack of seriousness, to me, is demonstrated by the fact that 3 people on this panel have posited this in terms of, well, I wouldn't do this, or I wouldn't do that, or if it doesn't affect me. And most of the people here are talking in the same sort of way, it seems, or the people objecting. I think you only need to look at your newspapers almost any week now, whether it's news from Austria or news of cases in Adelaide or one in Sydney I can think of, or some of the appalling conditions that we see in some other towns, to know that there are people for whom you have very little in common, that do not, as Greg suggests, oh, well, we'll leave it to the parents. You cannot trust these parents. They are in charge of children who are deeply vulnerable. And to think that somehow we can all just pretend there's no threat, or we can just wave it all away. It's all about free speech. Let them do what they like. There are some horrible things going out there, horrible things. And if we don't take an action to say, oh, well, look, we shouldn't do this because there are other ways of tackling the problem. It's like saying we shouldn't decriminalise guns because people could be stabbed. We've got to try everything. We've got to try everything. And if you don't acknowledge at the very basis that this is not just about one principle of free speech, it is about at least, as a minimum, 2. It's also about protection, otherwise people wouldn't be doing it. You're not being morally serious.
OK, Susan Carlin wanted to come in, and we're going to wrap up this discussion after I hear from you.
Believe it or not, and I'm sure we're both shocked, I actually agree with quite a lot of what you said. Well,
why should we be shocked?
What you and I... Anyway.
Well, I thought you were a moral person. Why should we be shocked?
Oh, then that's good. But what I did want to say, though, is, and like anyone, I abhor incest, rape, child pornography, all that sort of thing. I guess the only thing I would ask, and I'm sure... I guess what I would ask is, would it be, in fact, be more productive to preventing child pornography to, in fact, leave the sites there but watch them and use them as a net? This has happened internationally. Internationally, crime tasks have worked together. They've watched these sites and haven't released it. They're watching them, and they've used this to catch the perpetrators and the people that are trying to watch them. The reality is the stuff is out there anyway. Even if we block it, it will exist. It will go underground. It can be shared on, you know, network sharing, those sort of sites. Could it be better, in the interest of stopping child porn, could it actually be better to use it to catch them?
OK, a quick response to that.
This is one of a range of policies. 2 days ago, the Queensland Police, believe it or not, using technology, cracked peer-to-peer, and they've arrested in the last few days a range of people involved in the child pedophile ring. So this is not a policy designed to deal with peer-to-peer. I mean, I've heard a few comments from the crowd. We're not trying to claim it is. We never pretend it is. We accept it can't. But there is other technology available to the law enforcement agencies that is in place today, cracking peer-to-peer and arresting people in Queensland 2 days ago who've been involved in child pedophile rings. So this is not, oh, Steve says there's a silver bullet. There's no silver bullet involved in this. You need education of parents. You need more policing. You need new technologies like have just been deployed by the Queensland Police. You need all of those things. This is not a one-stop shop. Here's our solution. We don't have to worry about it, move on. There is a whole raft of policies that we're using to try and tackle this problem. But we're not trying to pretend that the filtering solution is it. We accept it is one of a raft of policies to try and combat what is a serious problem.
OK, we know the passions are there. We know people still want to ask questions on this, but we are going to have to move on. You're watching Q&A, and tonight we're broadcasting live from Melbourne. Q&A is a program where you get to ask the questions, so go to our website, abc.net.au/Q&A. Our next question